You're listening to the Sports Brothers podcast by Sam and Brian Dostal. Everything sports, all the time.
Happy holidays and welcome back to another edition of the Sports Brothers podcast here on YouTube with your two co-hosts. He's Sam Dostler, I am Brian Dostler. Sam, it's good to be back. We are 94 days off, but we're back.
Yeah, it's been a little while, and a lot's changed as far as the weather goes. Last time we were here, it was nice and warm out, and now it's not, and there's some annoying white stuff on the ground.
Yeah, it snowed a couple nights ago. Today is Saturday, November 27th. We hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving the other day. I know Sam and I did. We went to our Uncle Kyle's and Aunt Mary's. Very good turkey, good time there. On today's show, it's going to be nothing but MLB Hot Stove, as a lot of trades and signings have already happened before the winter meetings have even taken place in San Diego, as we will be talking about the Red Sox and how they signed Hanley Ramirez and Pablo Sandoval and what that means for them. Where will John Lester land, and are the Rays starting from scratch? But first,
Are the A's starting from scratch,
Are the A's
too?
starting from scratch? We're going to talk about that trade, as just about 12 hours ago, Sam, the Oakland A's traded away their all-star third baseman Josh Donaldson to the Toronto Blue Jays for Brett Lowry, Kendall Graveman, Sean Nolan, and a minor league shortstop, Franklin Barreto.
It was an interesting trade, I think, for Oakland. You look at it, and Donaldson was down batting average-wise. He hit .301 2 years ago. This past year, just .255. But there aren't many right-handed power bats out there, and Donaldson was certainly that. 29 home runs, the 98 RBIs, named to his first All-Star game. And my concern with this trade is you look at a guy like Brett Lowry, who, when he's healthy, he's been a pretty good player. He's only 24 years old, but he's not healthy all that often. He hasn't played more than 125 games in his 4 seasons as a major leaguer. Just played the 70 games last year. Wasn't really that productive. He has a pretty good glove as well. I think when you look at this, they made this trade based on the age, I think, because Donaldson, 28, Lowry, 24. They're both going into their first year of arbitration this offseason, and so they're both on the same timetable as far as that's concerned. But you look at it, Donaldson's not a free agent until 2019. Lowry, he's a free agent a year sooner in 2018. I don't know. It's I'm not quite sure what Oakland's doing right now.
Yeah, Josh Reich, the right fielder, is not pleased with the two trades. The other trade being Yoenis Cespedes, of course, at the trade deadline. And Sam, those
are their two big bats.
Yeah, on a team that has problems, issues driving in runs, they trade away their best two offensive hitters.
Yeah, it's really a head scratcher, especially you look at the Cespedes one, and they didn't really need that pitching. Obviously, getting John Lester is a great thing to be able to do, but I don't know if it was worth it at the expense of moving one of your big power bats in the middle of that lineup. Cespedes, a guy who ended up with over 100 RBIs. I think it was 22 home runs for the year for Cespedes, and he didn't play the last few games. So I'm not quite sure what they're doing. They've certainly lost a lot of punch in the middle of their lineup, and it's going to be a completely different team that Billy Beane and the Oakland Athletics send out there next year. And, I mean, they've won with not much before. We're going to have to see if they have the ability to do it again, especially with the Angels starting to find their footing with the group they have. The Mariners almost making the playoffs last year.
And, of course, they already did sign Billy Butler to a 3-year, $30 million deal.
That doesn't make up for it.
It doesn't make up for it, but it is another addition to that team. And
his power numbers are way down, though. Just 9 home runs this past year for Billy Butler. Yeah, he had some big hits, but in a ballpark that's not a hitter's ballpark, I think he's going to struggle. Just 9 home runs and 66 RBIs, and he hit .271, which is a steady downward cycle from his career year when he was 26 in 2012.
Some notes about Graveman, Nolan, and Barreto. Graveman, 3.86 ERA in just 4 2/3 innings last season. Nolan, he is expected to fight for a spot in the rotation next year. And Barreto, he is 18 years old, a .296 career hitter in 132 minor league games. And ESPN.com's Jerry Kranzik says he's exciting, but a ways away to be a Major League Baseball player.
You know, we're questioning these deals by Billy Beane, but time and time again, he's shown the ability to tear a team down and build it back up into a team that can win ball games. It might take a few years for him to get the pieces in place, like we've seen between when they were last good in the early 2000s and now. But steadily, they built the team back up, and it's getting to the point where he was going to have to pay some of these guys. Donaldson was going to start getting bigger deals. Same thing with Cespedes. He's 1 year away from getting his second major league deal. So you question it, but at the same time, it sticks, I think, to the blueprint of what the Oakland A's have done while Billy Beane has been their general manager.
And quickly now for the Toronto Blue Jays side of things, they added a big bat in their lineup with Donaldson.
That's a huge deal for them.
It's a huge deal with them there. Of course, Jose Reyes, Jose Bautista, and Edwin Encarnacion, and now they add Donaldson. And in AL East with
And I think we were
going
to talk about it earlier. Russell Martin already signed with them.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's you list those names there, and you have a very solid infield plus catcher.
Yeah. Martin, not a bad hitting catcher last year. 290, 11 home runs, 67 RBIs for Pittsburgh last season. So with those two additions, with Donaldson and Martin, again, the last 2 years, it's been this is going to be Toronto's year, this is going to be Toronto's year. Well, now they get a couple more big-name guys, and we'll see if they can make a splash in the AL East. Now we're going to move over to another AL East team, the Boston Red Sox. They, of course, made a big splash in this offseason so far, as they have signed Pablo Sandoval, who's only 28 years old, to a 5-year, close to $100 million deal with a 1-year club option of $17 million. And they also signed Hanley Ramirez to a 4-year, $88 million deal with a $22 million investing option, not to play shortstop or third base, but to play left field. And Sam, that is one of the big topics of this signing, with Ramirez playing left field.
Yeah, it really is, because he's a guy who's played infield throughout his entire major league career, but his agent was very happy to tell people that Ramirez would move to the outfield. And the Red Sox have a logjam in the outfield, but that logjam, I think people are making a bit too much of it when you look at it. Because a lot of the guys, though, they haven't been great. I mean, Daniel Nava is not a long-term guy in the outfield. Cespedes is a guy who I think at the most is around for one more year. Jackie Bradley Jr., Alan Craig, both guys who I think, well, Jackie Bradley Jr., I don't know that he's ever going to be a good bat in the major leagues. Above average, way above average defender, but he can't hit. Alan Craig, he might be past his time. Brock Holt's a great utility guy, but he's not. He started to get exposed when he was playing every single day as that season wore on last year. So and you look at a guy, Shane Victorino, is he going to be able to stay healthy? So they do have a lot of guys in the outfield, but how many of them are really reliable and guys that you can run out there every single day? I don't think as many as people are suggesting.
That is a good question. Is here on our notes. I have 9 outfielders that the Red Sox have, and the only one you didn't mention was Rusney Castillo.
And no one knows what he's really going to do.
But no one knows what he's going to do.
He played a handful of games, and the Red Sox were out of it, and you can't tell. And he hadn't played in, a year and a half between his last competitive game, so it's way too soon to even have any idea what he's going to bring to the big league field.
I am hearing Alan Craig potentially to the Miami Marlins. Not sure who they get in return, but they do have to unload some of these outfielders, Sam. And a lot of the talk was saying, okay, now that they have Ramirez, they're going to trade Cespedes. But John Henry and Ben Cherington say they're going to hold on to Cespedes this season. But bottom line is, it's great that they got Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez, but if they don't have any starting pitching, it doesn't mean anything.
Right, yeah, that's the thing. You look at the Red Sox rotation at the end of the year, and it wasn't good. You need to get some starting pitching. You don't have to get all frontline guys, and you have a nice little core. Joe Kelly was pretty good, the guy who came over from St. Louis, and it's a big if. What are they going to get from Clay Buchholz?
Yep.
I mean, if he can be half as good as he was for stretches during his career, especially the 2013 season, then you got a good arm. But you need a frontline guy, number 2 guy. You need some guys to fill in that rotation. And
quickly with Sandoval, he fills.
They need to improve that bullpen too.
Yeah, they do. They did re-sign Koji Uehara to a 2-year, $18 million deal.
But is he going to be able to? Yeah, he was
That's
fatigued.
the question. That's the question. Pablo Sandoval, .279, 16 home runs, 73 RBIs, but it's his postseason play that has gotten him this big deal, as he hit .366 in the 2014 postseason and is a career .344 hitter in the postseason. And Sam, the third base has been a position where the Red Sox have struggled in the last few years. They've floated Brock Holt in there. They've thrown Bogarts in there when Middlebrooks was down. Middlebrooks, he started hot when he first got called up, but now he can't stay healthy, and then he just can't produce when he's actually in the lineup. So how is Sandoval going to fit in Boston? Is it a good fit, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is. You hear a lot about his weight and not having a great body, but there's some players who it just doesn't matter. That's their build, and they're effective like that. David Ortiz is an example. Yeah, he's a DH, but he's kept himself pretty healthy. With the exception of this past year, Prince Fielder has been extremely healthy as a larger human being playing the infield on an everyday basis, both in the National and American League. So some people, it's just their body. I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. He moves well. He's a great hitter to all fields. He can provide some power for the Red Sox, and he's definitely a nice pickup. I like what they did, and you see some of the other guys getting these $100 million contracts. Kyle Seager got one for Seattle, and it makes you realize that it's not such a bad deal.
It's very true. Now to some other MLB offseason moves. We've already talked about Russell Martin to the Toronto Blue Jays. Adam LaRoche, he signs with the Chicago White Sox, 2 years, $25 million. Sam, do you like that deal?
Yeah, I mean, Adam LaRoche is he's a solid bat. He provides good power for you, and they need another power guy. I think it's going to be, depending on what the Nationals do for first base, that's going to be a loss for them because he was a guy who provided some very good pop for them in the middle of that lineup, and it's a nice team-friendly deal, too, at 2 years, $25 million. And I guess, would you Jose Abreu was the first baseman last year.
Yes.
So I wonder if LaRoche will be the DH or if they move Abreu to the DH spot. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go as far as that's concerned.
The Diamondbacks signed outfielder Cuban slugger Yasami Tomas for 6 years and $68.5 million. We don't know much about this guy. In last year's World Baseball Classic, he had .375, 6 for 16 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. Now, he's more of a power hitter, kind of like a Cespedes in those terms, whereas Rusney Castillo, who signed with the Red Sox, we just mentioned, is more of a speed guy, more of a leadoff type hitter. And he joins an outfield, Sam, that was hampered with injuries last season with Cody Ross, A.J. Pollock, and Mark Trumbo.
Yeah, A.J. Pollock, the Connecticut kid, played for Ram, was a shortstop back in his day when Plainville beat him during his senior year. Anyways, yeah, it's another good signing, I think. You look at it, and you're not giving him all that much each year, and if you can provide power, and I think you're right. It's very similar to it's a couple more years, but it's similar to that 4-year, $36 million range that Cespedes got initially from the Oakland A's, and everybody's looking for power. Power's scarce these days, and we've seen these Cuban players come in and have a great impact right away. Of course, we've been talking about Cespedes, Yasiel Puig. Other players have come in. Abreu, Rookie of the Year this past year for the White Sox. So there's been a lot of success with the Cuban players of late. So the D-backs just jumping on the bandwagon and adding one to their team. Cody Ross is getting up there in age as well.
Yeah, he is. John Lester, where will this man land? It does seem like he'll be a package deal with catcher David Ross, Sam, because in the last 2 seasons with Ross behind the plate, 195 innings, Lester has thrown a 2.77 ERA and struck out 192 batters, and he's held opponents' batting average just .235. And we know that whenever Lester pitched, we knew Ross was behind the dish because they just work so well together.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because we both watch a lot of baseball. We played. You just have a certain connect with certain catchers.
It's true.
I mean, you're not a different pitcher. It's all about the pitcher feeling comfortable. But yeah, Lester, he's meeting with a ton of teams. I guess he crossed the Cardinals off his list today.
He did.
He was supposed to meet with St. Louis, but he's met with the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Giants. That'd be interesting if we did a Sandoval, and if they did a Sandoval and Lester swap. Boy, imagine adding him to Madison Bumgarner. But I think it's too soon to really hone in on who the finalists are. And John Lester's doing it right. He's never been a free agent before. The Red Sox, gave him a nice offer this time around. But they really did slight him last offseason with offering just that 4 years and $70 million, which was just a terrible.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. I mean, he said he would do a team-friendly deal, but that's just a disrespectful offer from the Red Sox. So it's going to be I'm obviously following this closely, and too soon, I think, to really narrow it down to 2 or 3 teams that Lester could sign with.
A team to watch out for in these sweepstakes, though. The Cubs.
The Cubs.
You can't count the Cubs out.
I don't think you can cut the Braves out either.
I don't either.
He has a house down there. Goes down there in the off season. So he's. I don't know how you found it out, but it's 35 minutes from his home.
Yep.
Did you MapQuest it?
Nope.
Did it say?
Someone said. I think Buster Olney or someone said on ESPN.
I knew it was close. I didn't know it was that close.
But don't count the Cubs. Theo Epstein, of course, the former GM.
The guy who drafted him.
Now the president of baseball operations in Chicago. They have Joe Madden as the manager. It's Wrigley Field. It's reverse the curse again. I mean, it's all there for Lester to be not the hometown here, but to be the hero there. And again, you mentioned the Giants. They've won 3 out of 5 World Series. Pitch alongside Madison Bumgarner. How good would that be?
And also, that's a city he likes pitching. When you pitch at Fenway, you pitch with the Red Sox. Every game's a big game atmosphere. That's the way it is out in San Francisco. Every time you toe the rubber, as in a Giants uniform, especially though in that ballpark, it's a sellout. It's a big-time atmosphere. Something that a guy like John Lester really feeds off of.
And the Red Sox, of course, it's a team that he's played for pretty much all of his career. He's won 2 World Series. He has raved about the fans in the city, how much he loves it. And John Henry, the owner of the Red Sox, is now more willing to go over the luxury tax because they would have to do that if they were to sign John Lester.
Yeah, they would. They're right on it right now. And boy, talk about eating their words. Last offseason, after they won the World Series that shocked the entire universe, the Red Sox brass were saying, we're different than the Yankees. We found this way to do it, blah, blah, blah. And now here we are about 10 months later, and the Red Sox are dishing out these big-time contracts like it's nothing.
Now to another ace-type pitcher in free agency, Max Scherzer. This is the guy that really, Sam, a lot of people aren't talking about, as of course he had a brilliant season last year. Before the season started, he was offered a 6-year, $144 million extension from the Detroit Tigers, and he rejected it, which was very surprising.
He took a gamble on himself, and we're going to have to see if it pays off. He had another good year, not quite as good as the year before. As far as wins goes and losses, he went 21-3 and 13 last year, 18-5. But he threw more innings, so he's shown he's still durable. His ERA was just a tick higher, 2.74 to 2.85. So he's still very much the same pitcher, very much capable. I think a red flag, though, has to go up a bit when you look at Scherzer, not because of his numbers, but you look at a guy like Justin Verlander pitching for that same Detroit organization. Verlander, he took a dive quickly.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, he went from best in the game
to 500
3 years ago to the last 2 years being, just about a 500 pitcher. So that's something that we got to keep an eye on. He's going to be 30 next year. Someone's going to throw big money at him, though. He's going to get a big-time deal. He's going to get a long deal. It's just a matter of who it is.
I think the Giants are either going to get Lester or Scherzer.
And I think it's one of those situations where it always seems like, there's one pitcher or one player where once they fall into place, the dominoes start to fall pretty quickly. Right now it seems like Lester might be that guy.
Yeah, because James Shields, another pitcher.
If the Red Sox don't get Lester, then
they go after him or Scherzer. Yeah, so it seems as though, you're right, Sam, it seems as though that Lester is kind of the trend setter in terms of starting pitching to where players end up.
And he could set if he takes a little bit less from the Red Sox or from someone else, he could set the price range for starting pitchers this offseason.
So what if he does and then Scherzer gets less than $144 million?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
The Braves have made outfielder Justin Upton available. Seems like the Rangers are most heavily interested in him. Will he be dealt before the 2015 season?
The Uptons have never really lived up to the hype. B.J. Upton and Justin Upton teaming together in Atlanta the last couple of years haven't done much with that. And you look at the numbers, and he hit 270, but he's a guy who he can strike out a lot. doesn't always put the ball in play, and I think that's a concern. I think it depends maybe what they do as far as free agency goes. If they sign a guy like John Lester, do you want to trade a guy like Justin Upton who's going to provide some offense? You already traded an outfielder away in Jason Hayward, so you need some production out of that outfield position.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that trade. I didn't even put that down on here.
Well, there you go. Good thing I'm here.
Yeah. So will Cole Hamels be with the Phillies in 2015?
I think the Phillies have to drop some salary so they can free themselves up to make some other moves. Especially when you look at the fact that I don't know that they're good. They were all right this year. They flirted around 500 for most of the year, but
they just got to get younger.
They got to get younger.
That's what it is.
He's going to be 31 this year. His contract expires in 2019 at the age of 35, and each year he's getting paid at least $20 million, the lowest being $20 million during that the 2019 season, $22.5 million the other 4 seasons remaining. So I think they're going to look to trade him. If they get the right deal, they'll move him. If they don't, they'll hold on to him. I don't think there's any pressure to trade him yet.
I don't either.
He has those 5 years left, and there's going to be opportunities at other points
where the right deal would be in place.
Right. They don't have to jump on the first deal they see. There's time for them to get the right deal.
And just in general, I'm not saying they need to trade Cole Hamels, but I think the Phillies need to get younger in general. They're just holding on to what they had in 2008 and 2009. Chase Utley's still there. Yes, he was an All-Star last year, but Ryan Howard, he's not the same as he was back during those years. Jimmy Rollins, he's just getting older by the day. Carlos Ruiz.
Chase Utley had a nice bounce back year.
He did have a nice bounce back year, but
he's older.
But they just have to get younger.
Howard is older.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the young guys like Dominic Brown, who they expected big things out of,
is not young anymore.
And he never really.
Yeah.
And the other kid, Mayberry Jr.
Mayberry Jr.
They never became the players that the organization thought they were.
Now on to a deal, Sam, that I have ranted about, been very frustrated with, and that's a Giancarlo Stanton deal, as he signed a 13-year, $325 million deal with the Miami Marlins just about 10 days ago. And with this deal, he surpasses Alex Rodriguez as the highest-paid Major League Baseball player in the history of the game, when A-Rod signed a 10-year, $275 million deal with the New York Yankees back in 2008. And Sam, I don't think we've really talked about this. What are your thoughts on this deal by Stanton?
It's really surprising, I think, because he's been a really good player. But when Alex Rodriguez signed that deal, he was much more established. He had been on winning teams. He had been on teams that have made runs in the postseason. While Giancarlo Stanton, not the case. He's never been to the postseason. He's never done it in big situations. And also, the last pitch he saw, you would assume he's going to come back fine. But the last pitch he saw, he got hit in the face by.
Yeah.
Most times players come back and they're just fine after that. But you also got to look at a guy way back in the day for the Boston Red Sox, Tony Castiglione. He got hit in the head. Had a nice year when he first came back, but was never the same player after that. So this is, even without that, this is a lot of money. I don't know what the urgency was to throw all this money at him, because he still had 2 years left on his initial deal. I do like the way it's, well, no, I don't like the way it's structured. I don't know where I was going with that one.
You like the first, here's my take on it, and this is what I've been telling people about this deal. The way this deal is set up, it is financially good for the Marlins in the first 6 years of the contract.
Yeah, but why would you backload the money?
I understand this. Let me go through this. 2015, $6.5 million. What MLB star is making $6.5 million this year? So it gives them the flexibility to go out and get other guys. 2016, $9 million. 2017, $14.5 million. Then 2018, 2020, he'll make a total of $77 million, which will be an average of $25.7 million. So after his 6th year of his contract, he can opt out. He'll be 30 years old. He has the option to opt out of that contract. Then this is where the final 7 years of his contract, the backload of his deal, really gets heavy. as he'll be making a total of $218 million over those 7 years. So essentially, I look at this contract as almost two contracts. The first contract is saying the first 6 years, okay, Marlins, go out and get people, develop people to be a contender. And then the final 7 years is what we believe Giancarlo Stanton is with $218 million, because, and another reason why I say it's almost like two contracts, because the first 6 years he's making an average of $17 million a year. The final 7 he's making an average of 31. That essentially doubles. So when you have a big difference like that, that's why I'm saying it could, because they're so significantly different. It's only one more year, and he's making over $110 million more in the final 7 seasons.
I just don't get why they backload it. I know they want to be able to sign guys in the next couple of years, but you're going to be paying someone who's going to be in his mid to late 30s by the end of this contract, and giving him that much money over those years is risky, especially for a power guy in a big ballpark, because that's a big ballpark that the Miami Marlins play in down there. They were close to the playoffs this year. They were missing their top arm, Jose Fernandez, for a lot of the season, and he's a fantastic young pitcher. But the thing is, I just don't get where this money, all of a sudden the Marlins want to I know they made the moves a few years ago to try to get they got Jose Reyes, Josh Johnson. They tried to become winners quick by making some of those deals. But in the past, they've always been the team that's sold. They blew up the team shortly after they won the 1997 World Series, and they blew up the team shortly after they won the 2003 World Series. But here they are investing in a player, and if you're a Marlins fan, you might not be happy with the money that you threw at them, but I think you're happy that that the team is finally spending money to keep a guy, a star, in Miami for the foreseeable future.
Now this is a high risk, high reward type deal. They're taking a big risk. The Marlins front office is, as you need attendance to go up. They were 27th out of 30 last year. Only about 21,000 fans went to each home game, and the Marlins
probably
are
a generous estimate. I mean, whenever you see highlights or watched games,
there's not
obviously
21,000.
we get the Mets up here, so we watch the Mets a decent amount. A lot of empty seats.
And also, they're expecting a big TV contract with Fox Sports.
That's the
Sun
difference.
Sports.
All those regional contracts lately.
But the ratings need to be good for that in order for the Marlins to make profit out of it. If people aren't watching the game, then they're not making any money. So, and that's how they're expecting to pay Giancarlo's contract. Not to mention whoever they would have at that point.
If his lower contract allows them to sign other guys and they become winners, I think you start to see people show up. Hopefully, at least for the Marlins' sake.
Yeah, for those sake. The general manager Dan Jennings, he still says they have full plans to sign their younger, talented players to multi-year contracts this offseason, including Jose Fernandez, center fielder Marcel Ozuna, left fielder Christian Yelich, and shortstop Adeiny Echeverria. So
keep in mind, though, Jose Fernandez,
he won't be back till the All-Star break.
No, not that, but he is a Scott Boras client.
So
he'll be demanding some buck.
Yeah, he will be. All right, now to another Florida team, the Tampa Bay Rays, that we talked before we got started here, was with Joe Maddon now gone as the Tampa Bay Rays manager. Still don't have a manager right as of now, and it's been a couple weeks. It's kind of surprising they still haven't named one yet. Are the Rays kind of starting over from scratch and just building from the ground up? Because they have designated utility man Sean Rodriguez for assignment. They have traded away Jeremy Hellickson for some low minor league prospects in Justin Williams and Andrew Velasquez. Of course, they already traded David Price in last year's trade deadline. And about 10 days ago, they traded Joel Peralta and Adam Lipitor to the Dodgers for two players that, one, Greg Harris, starting pitcher who's in rookie ball, and Jose Dominguez, who is 22 years old and only pitched 14 2/3 innings in Major League Baseball.
Just speaking of the Dodgers, quick, you got to like those moves. Their bullpen was a weak point last year. That'll definitely boost their bullpen. It certainly looks like the Tampa Bay Rays are in full rebuilding mode. They are a team that's seemingly always in a bit of a rebuilding mode. They've had a core for a while, but they've always had different guys fill in different roles. Yeah, you got to look at a guy, though, like Evan Longoria, who recently, a couple of years ago, signed that long deal. He's got 9 years left on it. What's he thinking today as David Price is gone? Obviously, the guys we already mentioned, they're gone. It's going to be a completely different team. His manager's gone. You could see the Rays backtracking quickly into the team they were for quite some time before they started making that run in the late 2000s as one of the best teams in baseball.
They do, as you mentioned, still have Evan Longoria, Ben Zobrist, Will Myers, and
That's the guy they need.
And yeah, he got hurt last year in Boston, and he returned, but they were done for the postseason. And pitchers Chris Archer, Drew Smiley, and Alex Cobb. So it's not like
And Drew Smiley, very impressive
Yes.
after he came over in that trade.
Yes.
I think that was a nice deal for them. They got a guy who is younger than Price, and he's a lefty. He's a good young pitcher. He's someone who can make Rays fans forget about David Price.
All right, that's going to do it for our special MLB Hot Stove edition of the Sports
Can I
Brothers
just throw
broadcast.
this in? Michael
Yep.
Kadire, the Mets signing.
Yep.
I think the Mets, if they get another bat or two somehow in this offseason, they're
Say
going to
that
be
every
right there.
time.
Especially
Yep.
with the loss of Adam LaRoche in Washington. They lose one of their bats. The tide can swing very quickly, I think, in this AL East if a couple of these
NL
other
East.
teams, NL East, if the Mets or another team like the Braves can make a couple nice signings in this free agency period.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the podcast today, as this was just kind of a one-time thing during Thanksgiving break while I'm home.
Winter break's coming up.
Winter break is coming up, so there will be more podcasts. Not sure there'll be 2 a week, but there'll be more on the norm, as, again, we did have those 94 days off. As we're both still involved in radio, as you can hear Sam on 1410 The Hall every Wednesday from 5 to 7, and then you can hear me on WECS Radio 90.1 from 2 to 4 p.m. every Friday at Eastern Connecticut State University. Well, thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can listen to our current shows, past shows, off our website, www.thesportsbrothersblog.wordpress.com, or off our Twitter page at Sports. I forgot what it was. I almost said Sport PHS.
All right, just wrap it up.
All right, let's wrap it up. All right, so have a good day, folks.
Watch the college football today.
Yes.
Even though we just talked about baseball for 45 minutes.
And stay warm, folks. Have a good one.